I just found a super interesting link between the Freemasons and the Great Pyramids. I am currently deep down the rabbit hole of Freemasonry and how their official origin legends go back to the beginning of the biblical world, basically starting with Adam. So let me break this connection down into 7 bullet points. Number 1, as we know, geometry slash masonry is very foundational to the Masons. It's a core science, and Freemasonry reveres geometry above all others. Number 2, in the early 1600s, a man named John Greaves was the first European to scientifically measure the Great Pyramids, and he treated it as a work of advanced geometry. So this is the moment that the Great Pyramid enters the conversation as a legit geometry and not just myth. Number 3, according to the Constitution of the Freemasons by Reverend James Anderson, who was commissioned to write it by the Premier Grand Lodge of England, so it's legit, claims that there was advanced masonry before the biblical flood. He said sites and curious works were built before the flood. So without going into too much detail, another one of their origin documents, the Dowland manuscript of the Legend of the Craft, includes the myth that the sons of Lamech discovered the seven liberal arts, or the 7 sciences, which, side note, in Genesis, several of these sciences were unexplainably credited to Lamech's children as well. And it's also mentioned in Josephus's writings. So just stay with me here. Number 4, it's basically common knowledge now that the pyramids were not originally tombs, as they have never found anything tomb related in them. And the theory that they were actually built far longer ago than the mainstream academic state is widespread. If you're not there yet, I'm sure you soon will be. But so the idea that the pyramids could have been built pre-flood isn't actually too far-fetched. Okay, number 5. Then the connection between the pyramids and the secret societies goes even further when Karl von Eckarthausen in the late 1700s stated that he believed that Egyptian temples encoded initiatory wisdom and that the knowledge survived catastrophes through symbols. So this idea is also corroborated by the legends of the Pillars of Lamech. If you haven't heard of that legend, I have a whole separate video about it, but long story short, the children of Lamech feared that the world would be destroyed. It did. So to preserve their knowledge of the sciences, they inscribed them on 2 pillars. And after the flood, they were said to have been found by Hermes. If you want more detail, I go way deeper in other videos. But the first explicit, direct written connection between Freemasonry / geometry and the Great Pyramid specifically appears to the early to mid 1800s. That connection is most clearly articulated by Charles Piazzi Smith. He was the Astronomie Royale for Scotland. So in 1864, Smith published Our Inheritance in the Great Pyramid, where he argued that the Great Pyramid was not just a tomb, but a monument encoding advanced geometry, precise measurements, and divine order. And he suggested that Masonic geometry and symbolism echoed the same mathematical and cosmic principles he believed were embedded in the pyramid's design. So Piazzi Smith has like a super interesting story, and I have a whole video on him if you're interested. But to tie all of this together, you have Freemasonry revering geometry as sacred. You have the origin of the 7 sciences, one of which is geometry, and tying into the origins of Freemasonry. And then you have ancient structures defined by extreme geometric precision. You have legends about knowledge surviving the flood through form. I have noticed lots of patterns throughout history that point to a strong connection. And I'm not saying that the pyramids built the pyramids, but they definitely revered them, and whoever did build them seemed to have wanted to pass down knowledge and did it in a way that survived the deluge. And people at that time seem to have known that it was coming. So I have just so much more to say about this, but this video is already way too long. And also, just side note, the timeline that I'm using here is not necessarily the mainstream timeline, but I believe that it's important to try and look at things from a different perspective. And this is all just fun speculation, so I'm curious. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.